It just seems like you actually have fun doing what you're doing as a founder.
I mean, it's a funny story because we sort of started as a joke. It's 8 years, over 10 years before our business made a profit. We'll probably redouble our efforts on that, trying to rid the world of curtains of shame. I think the saying in fundraising is it's hard to milk a cow with an email. Before we release a new product, if it's not a fuck yeah, it's a fuck no.
So welcome to Abnormal. This is a podcast for normal people who want to do abnormal things. My guest today is the owner of probably one of the coolest companies you've ever heard of, a company famous for making the ordinary extraordinary, a company on a mission to free the thighs of the world. I'm here with the owner and chief smuggler of Budgy Smuggler, Adam Linforth. Welcome, Ads. Thank you for coming on the show.
Mate, stoked to be on. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's first time I met you was in my Exeter days back in the UK when you came on and shared your founding story there. It's one of those crazy things because I live in Hong Kong now, right? And everything I see online on my social media, not about Budgy Smuggler, about businesses and entrepreneurship is hustle culture, no work-life balance. You've got to kill yourself to make the business successful. And I've always had so much respect for you guys because it just seems like you actually have fun doing what you're doing as a founder. Is there, I hope there's truth to that, but am I right in saying that? I'm sure there's been tough times as an entrepreneur as well, but it seems different with you.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a funny story because we sort of started as a joke. It wasn't meant to be a proper business. There was a couple of other guys before me, and then about 16 years ago, I kind of took on the baton from them, and I thought that we would make heaps of money straight away. What I didn't understand was that people weren't quite ready to free their thighs. Board shorts at that time were sort of past the knee was the fashion at the time. And the image of a bloke wearing smuggler or Speedo style swimwear was sort of quite elite and ripped. And that meant that for us to grow as a business, we had to find another way, because that didn't resonate with the kind of typical Australian male, wasn't this sort of oiled up Adonis. So we set about doing it a different way. But I had another full-time job for the first 8 years. So sometimes when people are like, oh, man, I've been working so hard at this, it's not quite, I've been hustling, I'm not quite there. It's like, well, it was 8 years, over 10 years before our business made a profit. So, and then because I had a full-time job outside of that, I didn't need to rely on the income from Budgy. So that meant we could purely just have fun. There wasn't any profit motive. And I'd also say some of the decisions we made through that period, like we kept all our manufacturing in Australia, which we still have for all our swimwear. So there were some things that we could do which were made us different. And then, we were just basically trying to have a good time. So we figured if we could get the vibe right, if we could get people wanting to wear the product and keep growing, then eventually we'd reach a tipping point. So by the time that I did do it full time, I wasn't in that desperation stage of the business. We kind of had enough of a following or a tribe, as people would sort of say now, to enjoy it.
It was one of those, I'm sure this wasn't the case at all from your perspective, but when I was in the rugby scene in the UK, it felt like it was one of those brands that all of a sudden just arrived on your doorstep overnight. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was just everywhere. Everyone was wearing them. Everyone was talking about them. Everyone was following you on Instagram and talking about your marketing. But as you're saying there, it was an 8-year journey to get to actually just being full time, right? But I've done a bit of, I think your founding story is really, really interesting because you actually bought it off a mate, right? You bought the concept off one of your friends, Lockie.
Yeah. So
And so
Go
I
on.
want to know you must have seen something in the brand that no one else saw at the time. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, well, so Lockie got a job for a guy called Kevin Rudd, who was sort of a little known as sort of off the radar Australian politician. And over like 2, 3 years, he gained a following, and then he became the Prime Minister of Australia in 2007. So
It's not a
Lockie,
bad gig then.
yeah, so Lockie was the press secretary for the Prime Minister at like 26 or something like that, like crazy. So I'd been helping him out just because I liked the business, and his little cousin had been, who I was good mates with. So we would just, turn up to parties and serve drinks to girls in them, and just doing it for free beers and a free pair of smugglers. So I knew that it was great fun. I had a background in surf lifesaving, and I used to do a sport called surfboat rowing. So you have to row out and sort of slide on a seat. You have to wear Budgy Smuggler style swimwear for that. And so I used to travel around the country doing that. And what I noticed was that like big units, like scary looking blokes, tattoos, could beat the shit out of you, were cutting around in caravan parks, drinking, drinking beers and just staying in there, Speedo, whatever the brand was then, for the whole day. So I kind of thought like there was, I guess that was an insight that I had, that because I had this lifesaving and surfboat rowing background, it kept me wearing Budgy Smuggler style swimwear longer, and it just feels better. So that was the sort of insight. I was like,
when the thighs are exposed.
yeah, we call board shorts curtains of shame, and they feel terrible. Like, you don't see women signing up to wear board shorts, right? Like maybe they're a step ahead of us on that front. So yeah, that was the kind of insight that I saw. I'd also started a job at a bank which I hated. So it was the GFC as well. So they were like firing 5,000 people a day. So I thought working at a bank was a safe job, and then I'm like, hang on. It's safe for now, but
GFC is in global financial crisis, right?
global financial crisis. This is 2008. So
Good timing.
when
Good
it,
timing, ads.
it was great for me because I was like the cheapest. So I just kept getting promoted, and then they were firing all these old blokes with kids and mortgages. So I thought that wasn't safe. Plus, like how a big organization works. Many of your listeners would have experienced this. You just see things that they're doing that are crazy, or like can be done better, and you sort of suggest it, and they go like, hang on mate, just play the system here, wait your turn. And I was like, I wasn't ready for that. I just used to sit looking out the window going, there's better things to do. So I love to say it was purely insight, but it was also, I was really keen to try and do my own thing with my life, and I was looking for an opportunity to do that. And when Budgy came up, there was a couple of other guys, and they fell away. They didn't want to do it because it saw it as too risky. When I actually bought it, so when I say bought it, like his cousin turned up with the stock. It was like it could all fit in a car, like a sedan, like a normal car. So it wasn't like this huge operation. It was a piece of paper scribbled with the password, and he said there was no like proper paperwork exchange. It was he just goes, yeah, mate, Lockie had to fly off that night to meet with President Obama and the United Nations. So it was he called me in the morning. I was very, very hungover, and said, do you want to purchase this loss-making startup? This is before loss-making enterprises were called. I was like, that sounds like a pretty good idea, actually. So can you make a call by midday? I was like, leave it with me. I went for a run, and I was also maybe not desperate to do something else, but a big organization wasn't going to work for me long term.
What age were you at this point, Ads?
I was 23.
23 when you bought Budgy Smuggler?
Yeah.
Wow. And what was it about that? I know you've touched on it a few times there, but as you said, a lot of people who are listening will be exactly what you described. Maybe they're actually currently watching the window in their office, listening to a podcast. So what was it about that lifestyle in particular that you just decided wasn't for you?
Yeah, well, you mentioned something before about doing things that you love or you're interested in. So I love kind of Australia outdoors. So cutting around in smugglers as a hobby, I thought could be, or hobby that becomes a job could be fun. Yeah, I think that was the key thing. It was something that I looked at and I thought I was going to enjoy, and I think I also saw that probably a lot of other people will feel that same joy. And the other thing Budgy Smuggler had going for it, because I did run the sort of numbers of, well, why don't I just start from scratch and start um, my own swimwear company, Lenny's Swimwear, Adam's Swimwear, whatever, pick a exotic name. But Budgy Smuggler's like an iconic, Budgie Smuggler's an iconic colloquial Australian term, and like it just makes people smile and laugh. So they had a good name. The business, I think they'd made maybe 1,000-ish sales over a couple of years. So it wasn't like when I first took over, there'd be multiple days with zero orders. So for anyone listening at home who's going through that, it is the worst feeling when you're like, refresh the screen, zero. Like, I demand a recount.
Refresh again.
Yeah. So that was it was frustrating a little bit at the start to have those days. And again, I was lucky I had a job, so that didn't.
So you were still working at this point, but not in the office, or is it something different?
So what happened was, I quit the job at the bank, and then a friend of mine went to university with an Aboriginal bloke called Jack Manning Bancroft, who started a mentoring program for Indigenous high school kids. So I'd like volunteered with that. So he wanted to spread the program from a place called Redfern in Sydney to around Australia. And so I was helping him to do the books, and he asked me if I could come on a part or full-time basis to help him grow the non-profit, I guess it was. And I was interested, but I was like, mate, I'm doing your book, so I know you've got no money. And he's like, it's coming, bro. So I went to do that at the same time as doing Budgy. But that went from 2 to 3 staff to over 100 staff over like a 4 or 5 year period. So that actually, we I think I raised about 50 million over the 8 or 9 years that I was there. So that went from a couple of people. There was 3,000 regular volunteers, 7,000 kids. So that was happening concurrently to Budgy, and that was my main focus. And there was a lot of that was a really good learning experience for me, not just about our Indigenous culture here in Australia, but also how to scale a business, different like awkward sizes of companies, like 1 or 2 to 10 is a really great time. 10 to 30 is a really challenging time, and then some things are actually easier once you pass the kind of critical mass where you have to have all your documentation and systems and processes down. So yeah, that was a really cool experience. I got to travel all around Australia, and that went for 7 or 8 years until I came to do Budgy full time. We had a couple of full time staff at that stage. So I made the call actually.
So you had full time staff before you were full time?
Yeah, we had 2 full time staff, I think, and a third one joined about the time that I joined. But they were kind of running Australia pretty well. So it was like, what can I do? And if you're going in to do it full time, or if you're getting a new person into your team, the question that we always ask is not just like sharing the load of the existing people, but like they need to be doing something new. Or if they're coming in to help one of your team, then one of your team needs to have something new on their plate. Otherwise, you just keep throwing more people at problems and you're not actually getting additional stuff done. So, I actually moved to the UK. So the purpose of that was to grow the brand in the UK and Europe, which was our biggest customer base at that time. So that was probably a couple of years before I was down at Exeter.
The famous beaches in the UK.
The famous beaches of England. Well, it's been a bit of a ball ache because half the orders went to Europe, mainly France. And then so with Brexit, now we've had to set up another office in France.
Are you in the southwest? Southwest in Biarritz?
Or? Yeah, we're in Bordeaux. So
what a beautiful part of the world. Must be tough doing market research down there.
The southwest, a lot of discovery tours. I tell you what, a lot of discovery tours.
My wife is from the southwest, and I didn't realize that before actually committing to going out with her. So when she first told me she was from Biarritz, or do you know a place called Osogor?
Like Osogor, I know Osogor.
That's where she's from. So every summer we're down there a couple months.
It's a great part of the world. So I love it over there. I got to spend 4 months there last year. He was 2 years old at the time, so our kid was in like a French creche.
Awesome.
It was a cool experience. The southwest of France is pretty similar,
stunning,
culturally to Australia as well, like surf, sun, kind of laid backish lifestyle. So have loved that.
Question on the so when you're doing this full time, when you're not doing this full time, sorry, I just want to touch on this because I'm conscious that a lot of people who listen to the podcast are probably thinking or doing something similar to what you were doing, where they're working their full-time job and they're trying to get their side thing going, or deciding how many hours to commit, when's the right time to cross over full-time. What did your typical day look like when you were still working your full-time job? How much time could you actually give to building Budgy Smuggler?
Yeah, it was kind of a good time to start because like Gmail and stuff like that started, so you could access emails and stuff anywhere. But it was a pretty intense work period because my role, not at Budgy, was like 50-ish hours per week with a lot of travel. So my typical day would be, I was rowing surf boats, which was great because it keeps you like totally sober, and you train each day at like 5 or 5:15. So 5:15 a.m. in the boat, get out at 6:15. I'd be at work between 6:30 and 7. And then I'd work through at the role I was doing till kind of 6:30ish. I'd drive back to Manly, which is about 45 minutes. I would have a chicken pad thai and can of Coke for dinner every night. And then I'd do a couple of hours on Budgy each night. And then I'd do 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday, a couple of hours on a Sunday, something like that. That went for about 3 or 4 years. And was hard. Like in hindsight, there were times where I wanted to cry. I remember one night we got an order from a surf chain called City Beach. It was 300 pairs or something, but we needed to put swing tags on all the items before it went in, and we didn't have swing tags. And to get them, you had swing tags, like the little tags that are attached to clothing with a barcode and stuff. So I ordered the barcodes, and then I couldn't afford to buy heaps of you have to buy like thousands of them and it takes ages. So I printed them onto cardboard and borrowed a guillotine and a hole puncher and was just making them until like 2 in the morning, and get it in a box, put the boxes at the door, and 5 o'clock up, get in the boat, go to my job at AIM. Then at lunchtime would drive to the post office to send the orders. And yeah, there was a period there that it was hard, and now it's hard in different ways. But I always reflect, like, you asked for this, so when you start a business, like, you ask for it. So part of it is that grind, and there is an alternate, right? You can just go and work for a big company, like that option's available. But the reason I think people do their own businesses is because they're trying to get out of that cycle. So yeah, it's the same today. Like you know, things are at a different scale, and we've got a team, so there's a lot of good that comes with that. But then sometimes, if you know, things are going, we don't have any investors or anything, so financially everything's on me. If it's going poorly or out of money, I've got to borrow that money. So
has that ever been something you've thought about, is raising money through investors?
well, it's for sale actually, $2 billion if US.
Wow.
If
Anyone listening?
Anyone listening wants to
any
buy
Hong
a
Kong
business.
VCs, any Hong Kong VCs out there?
Yeah, that's it. So I've just kind of put a ridiculous figure on it, so we can, you know, I think we'll get there, but it might take 10, 20 years, and that's okay. That's part of the fun for me. Yeah, we've had some nibbles, but I kind of did this because I didn't want to feel like responsible to anyone else, and so that's why it would have to be just a ridiculous kind of figure to consider it, because I just like, even if they didn't have control, I just know that I'm sort of built that I would feel a responsibility there to deliver on their hopes and dreams. So yeah, it's not totally off the cards, but not something we're actively kind of looking at. Yeah,
because I kind of think, when I look at all your marketing and your events and activations, I think, wow, sprinkle some VC money in there, and the scale that these guys could throw a party would be crazy.
yeah. So that is a very good point. And I like parties, so we're starting to get there. Like, we're just reaching the scale now where we're going to do our first TV ads here in Australia. We've got pretty good party next week with like 70 odd people out on a super yacht on Sydney Harbour. So some of those things are starting to transition from being fun but a little bit budget to a little bit more at scale. And we've got some more like footballers and things like that involved. So we're starting to, I feel, reach that tipping point. And that's the other reason why I'm not like that interested to sell, because even though we've been going for 20 years as a business now, it feels like we're in the startup phase still, and the biggest, like, we've got a lot of growth ahead of us, so, and that's more or less happening. So
you've done the hard yards now. It's you're finally reaping the rewards of the growth and the branding.
Exactly. So, you know, that's like 20 years. I think if we had money, we could get there quicker, but then maybe you lose some of the magic as well. I don't know. And like, I like the pressure. So our rough business plan for the first 15 years was like 50% year on year. At the moment, our year on year growth is that we budget's 26%. So that means that you double every 3 years, and then you do 10x every 10 years. So just 26, 27%, 26, 27%. And then if you fast forward 10 years, you're 10 times bigger. So I'm like, oh, we'd be pretty big at that stage and still have room for growth. So yeah, that's more or less been the trajectory as well. We did 50% we've never had a year where we've more than doubled. It's just been a
steady
I think
away.
it was not a year or two, probably like when when you would have seen it in the UK around 2016, 2017, I started full time, that we did like an 80% and a 60% year. But outside of that, the last few years have been pretty consistent around that 25 to 30%. And then we can self-fund that as well. So we don't need to risk too much to get that growth. It's kind of organic.
Well, I've done the hard work. I've identified a growth market for you, ads.
Yes. Speak
Hong
to
Kong.
me.
Hong Kong. We need to get something done in Hong Kong. If you're talking boat parties, yacht parties, the market here for throwing those kind of shindigs is just crazy. And I want to see a Hong Kong's most ordinary rig at some point.
Excellent. Well, we've got Ordinary Rig is launching again in 2 years, so it's going to be a full international search. So we'd love to find...
For the listeners, Az, can you just explain what Ordinary Rig competition is?
Yeah, so the first one we did in 2016, and people probably remember the Victoria's Secret swimwear parades and Miss World pageants and this sort of thing. And we just thought it'd be funny to do something that takes the piss of that a little bit. And so we came up with the concept of the search for Australia's most ordinary rig. So that was like a Miss World meets Victoria's Secret event. So the contestants will all make their own wings. And there's like a Fallen Angels parade to Robbie Williams, where they enter and walk down with their rings. They have to do a talent. So, some of them will sing, some of them will dance. Some of them, I don't know, do tricks with a frisbee and stupid stuff. So, and the winner's announced. And then they become, so World's Most Ordinary Rig, the prize was 10 grand. And a modeling contract with us. So we then get them in some of our shoots. And now in Australia, we've just released some new underwear a few months ago. So that's a big area that we're starting to push into. And we've got the hottest guy voted the hottest NRL player. He's English, actually, Herbie Farnworth. And Josh Clutterbuck, who's Australia's most ordinary rig. And so they're the kind of two talents for that. And that goes back to, just wanting to show different people in smugglers, but all of them having a good time and people that you'd want to have a beer with.
I know it's a genius marketing campaign, and it's just up there with all of your social content. And I know it's all fun and games doing like the most ordinary rig competition, but what part of like male body image and body dysmorphia, what part does that play in your actual overall strategy for Budgy Smuggler?
Yeah, well, the reason why that started actually was some kids from Penrith, which is like western suburbs of Sydney, kind of working class, mullets, bad haircuts. Kids came in and they were going to schoolies week, and they made a comment like, "Oh, we're getting so shredded for schoolies." And I was like, "Ugh, like here's 17-year-old kids like really wanting to get ripped up and shredded to go on their end of school leaving kind of party." And that wasn't the case 7 or 8 years earlier. So social media had begun in that time, and obviously like some of that body dysmorphia had come into play. So we wanted to do something to counter that and focus the brand on people that you want to have a good time with, not just their rigs. So we'll have people who are fit wearing our stuff and people who are less fit. It wasn't about everything having to be ordinary. And we've also tried to make it not like a sloppy rig contest. So as part of the criteria, you've still got to be able to swing an axe and run for a taxi, but you might not be religiously counting your carbohydrates. So we've tried to do it in a subtle way without going like, body image is so important for us and make a big deal about it, but just do it through how we present the brand.
Yeah, I think it's quite obvious as well. Like looking at all your social content and even looking at the people who wear budgie smugglers now. Like, I mean, you come to Hong Kong on one of these boat parties and all the blokes or 90% of the blokes are in budgies. And it's, they're blokes that don't look like supermodels. Some do, some don't, but it's more like the attitude and mentality that comes with it. Like they don't care. They're just there to have a good time.
Yeah,
And that's now normalized.
that's it. Yeah, we want people to put them on and feel good. So like both literally feel good about the product, but also about what that product stands for and that you feel good just in your own body. So that's been a part of it. And then like got to be frank, like business wise, like 90% of people don't have ripped rigs. So if we're not making it okay for that, then we've got a massive amount of the population that we're not going to reach. So like there's some business sense behind it as well, but the underlying principle, yeah, started from those kids who were more concerned with their bodies at a young age than like not even a generation before, like a school generation 6 years before, and that made us take that extra leap to start the search for the world's most ordinary rigs.
That's a really cool motivation. One story I've had recently, obviously I'm in Hong Kong. We did a lads holiday to Koh Samui, and I want to touch on this because
Yeah.
it's peer pressure, but in a very different way than it was maybe 10 years ago. Because we're in this villa pool, and it's a group of rugby lads, and so we're obviously all rocking our like respective rugby club budgie smugglers. And
Yeah.
we've got one American friend who's come along with us, who's not part of the rugby clubs or doesn't play rugby. And he'd never worn a pair of budgie smugglers in his life, always boardies, very American boardies.
Yeah.
And so the first day he comes down to the pool and he's like super nervous, and he's not a nervous guy, but he's got these budgie smugglers on that we've made him wear, and he's like very timid. And then by the end of the week, he's walking around, strutting around the villa in his budgies. And since then, every time we go to the beach, we're rocking a pair of budgie smugglers. And there's that peer pressure if you're the one wearing boardies that you guys have created with all your social campaigns and boardies versus smugglers. It's like the opposite of peer pressure now.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably redouble our efforts on that, trying to rid the world of curtains of shame. We launched a store in Newcastle, Australia, not Newcastle, England. One of the girls is from the UK, and her mum called and goes, "Oh, that's so exciting! You're opening a store in Newcastle." And it was a different Newcastle, but we opened it and we actually did a board short buyback for the town, so people could come and trade in their boardies for a pair of their curtains of shame for a pair of swimwear, which a lot of them did. And there's a bit of fun behind that, trying to free the world, free the thighs of the world. And once you start doing it, it's actually quite difficult to go back, because you're like, it's a whole new world. It just feels better, and once you get comfortable with it, and definitely if you're in a group, it helps. But I've been there. I went to college in America for like a semester abroad, and used to wear smugglers before anything to do with budgie smuggler, and people were shocked. Like, we're selling a little bit in America, but there's
still not
some cultural elements where it's a high bar to cross. So we're sort of ticking off where it's a little bit smoother first, and then we'll try and conquer the US.
Once you conquer the US, then it's only up. Then it's a huge market.
Yeah, it's a big beast, but like I had a good piece of advice early on when this is right at the start, where I was looking to take Budgie to the US because I had friends there. I'd just finished college and stuff, and I was with a guy who was the co-founder of Mambo, which was like a big surf brand in Australia in the like 80s, 90s. And he asked me how much I was turning over, and I said 100 grand or something like that. I've been working like a couple of years on this, like pretty hard. And he just looked at me deadpan and goes, Adam, you do not exist. I was like, what? And he said, mate, you don't exist. He's like, look at the beach there. We were at a place called Palm Beach in Sydney. He's like, is everyone wearing budgies? I was like, no. He's like, all right. So if you don't have everyone at your local beaches wearing them, how are you going to take on the US, mate? I was like, oh, good point. He's like, and then when people from the US come here and they're going to ask, is it legit? And no one's wearing them, like your brand's, it might be a fad, but it's gonna die. So you need to look after your own backyard first. And that's a lesson that I think you can chase rainbows and all these big new markets, but is everyone, within earshot of you in your local community, your local footy club, your local town, if they're not all on board, then it's going to be hard to do it on the other side of the world.
Yeah, I mean, Manly Beach, Manly High Street. It's. I'd say you guys are pretty clear that you're from Manly, and that's where your
yeah. So like you'd go to Manly, which is our local beach, and people swim every morning, and we'd be at like well over half, 2/3 of people probably in our brand. So that's a good start, and we're doubling down on that. We've got a store on the high street, or the Corso it's called. We're working with local surf clubs. We're working with the rugby club. We're trying to really, make sure that our home community is looked after. And now with the other stores that we've got a couple of other retail stores. We're sort of redoubling that, like getting the team to go and swim with the local swimming groups. We've got a night for the rugby club in Newcastle to come into the store. We're going to have their pair available in the store. There's a local run club up there that we're looking to do stuff with. I'm going to go up and say a few words at their Christmas party, like a smaller version of what happened in Exeter. So, and that's another point as well. Like it's hard to make friends via email. So you've got to physically get out there. So in the UK, if someone had ordered from us, and if it was a rugby player that was well known, I'd get on a train from London 2-3 hours and hand deliver them, and then like see if they're free for a beer or a coffee or whatever afterwards. So a lot of those guys have become good friends. Same when I was in France, I'd make an effort to go and meet face to face with the players, because it's hard to. I think the saying in fundraising is it's hard to milk a cow with an email. You can't expect people to give you anything if you haven't spent time with them. And we're like a bit different as well. Like one of the learnings I had from working with AIM and Indigenous Australians for a long time, like in Indigenous languages in Australia, there's no word as please or thank you. So like you're just expected to look after the community, and there's no direct reciprocity, but that then comes back to you. So we've made a big effort at Budgy from the start to try and look after the community. We did heaps of fundraisers in the early years. We're always looking at ways we can look after people, and we don't ask for anything. But eventually, swings and roundabouts is another way of saying it, maybe. That goodwill, that good energy comes back. So we're redoubling that focus now. There's like a remote pools project that we're getting amongst. We do a lot of things with mental health. Like most of the time we don't even say it. Like it's just, there's so much on that it just happens. So I think it's a hard one when you're starting out, because it's like you got a limited budget, all these things, you want something back quickly, but somehow if you can get the message out there, look after the community, look after your existing customers or client base. Are you following up after 30, 60 days with your top
Mm.
50, 100 people? Are you sending them a handwritten note? Are you putting on a small event for them, or putting on a small event for the community where all the money goes to that and they can be a part of it? Like that, that's important too, to the people that you've already got in your tent, that you don't take them for granted.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you've spent so much time building to get to the stage where you are today. And I
Yeah.
saw, I know how important sort of the rugby community was to your initial growth, because it was just, I mean, every team wanted their own pair of custom budgies.
Hmm.
Yeah, some high profile NRL players and rugby union players around the world are really big fans of your brand. Um, but I think with what you've done in terms of building the brand itself is you were able to sort of have these conversations with those players or teams in quite a different way, instead of just a transactional approach in terms of, right, wanting ambassadors on board. Okay, well, how much can you pay me if I'm a professional
Mm.
player? Whereas you actually built a product that people wanted anyway and found really cool, so they wanted to be associated with Budgy Smuggler. We just had
Yeah.
Jack Noel on the podcast last week,
Love
and
Jack.
he's a huge fan of you guys.
Yeah.
And I remember vividly sitting in the physio room with him at Exeter when we were talking about designing his Budgie Smuggler logo, with the
Yeah. Yeah.
cigar in his mouth and the
Yeah.
sunglasses. And I remember it,
Yeah.
like, because he was so pumped about it, and it was just so cool. And then you guys sent a load of budgies for the Exeter team of Jack's smugglers. So can you sort of touch a bit on the power of having these ambassadors or non-official ambassadors, and how much that has done for your brand?
Yeah, so it's been extremely helpful. And I think at the start, we had to overcome that hesitancy when you didn't have the majority of the team wearing them. It
Mm.
was only going to be one or two, like, who's the person that we get on board? So typically, what most brands would do would be like to get the team captain or the best looking player um, on board, and that wouldn't have worked for us. Like maybe if we're selling fucking Rolex watches or something, that's a better avenue, or a less irreverent brand. But our focus was on the person that would sing the team song. Like, who's the person that isn't the captain with a C behind their name, but everyone
The people's
looks to on
captain.
where to go after it. The people's captain. The people's captain. Perfect. So in Australia, there was a couple of guys that had gone overseas: Adam Ashley Cooper, Matt Giddo, Drew Mitchell. They were helpful in France in that way. And so I think friend Dean Mum had gone to play at Exeter.
Yeah, Dean Mum
And
and Dave Dennis as well were big advocates
yeah,
of budgies. Yeah.
yeah. So, and I had such limited cash that I couldn't send like 30 pairs to a team. I could send like 3. So I just say to them, like, who are the spiritual leaders in the team, and get them a pair, and then that's how it spread. So yeah, I guess for things to spread, it's finding those, for us, the spiritual leaders, rather than the people who are leaders on paper, or maybe the captain of the team on the field. Sometimes they'll be the same person, but often
Rarely,
it's
very rarely.
yeah, often it's a lesser known. Someone like Sia Khaleesi can probably play both roles, but often it's someone in the team who's a little bit lesser known. Maybe even from the outside, the public would have no idea that they're the funniest bloke in the team. So that's been the focus. Who's singing the team song? Who would you love to have a beer with? And doesn't matter what they look like. It's the other thing. Their color, their shape, their size, if they're fit and good looking. It's finding people who have got that social leadership.
Mm. I think there's so many different examples of what you've done which is very creative when, as you said, you might be strapped for cash at times and it's a startup and you're trying to get the most bang for your buck by sending 3 pairs to the people's captains of the team, or you're running a really funny marketing campaign, social media campaign to get the maximum amount of exposure, not paying for ambassadors. All this sort of stuff is, I think, really good lessons for people out there listening, wanting to do their own thing. It's like you don't
Yep.
just need to throw money at a problem. You can solve things through creativity, a bit of ingenuity.
Yeah, I think also like when you're starting something or in the early days, like people love hearing from you. People love founders. Like you'll often have a belief or be so enthusiastic about it. So having some time to put aside for yourself to not get trapped behind a computer, which can be hard, like when there's so much to do. But yeah, like I would always go like spend a half a day a week and go and deliver those pairs. When the first high profile rugby league players started buying pairs here, I would go sometimes and like call them, not just turn up, but be like, there's a guy, George Rose, who played at Manly. So I'd physically deliver them to his house and add some extra pairs for the team and say, hey, like just getting this thing going. You know, people are often pretty happy to help you in those early days. So yeah, get out there, like try and physically spend some time, because people don't do that as much anymore. And then also just like the social media, you see how to spend $1, make 3, like it's pretty much gone. Not many people can crack that code. I know a lot of, excuse me, a lot of other brands who are spending $100, $150 to make $50, like just to get that first acquisition and then hoping to retain them longer term. So we don't have a budget where we can really burn through cash like that. So even today, we spend a lot of time. We just did a collab with Pit Viper, you know, the American Sunnies. And so we had a list of like 50 pairs to send out, but everyone we did like a handwritten note with something about the person, so that it wasn't just another PR company. Like that extra effort takes like
a long way.
a few hours, but if you're sending it to 50 pretty high profile people, and 2 or 3 of them it gels with, and like that's going to be probably 2 or 3 of the better hours you invested, because just to physically make all the boxes and get them together is like a day and a half. So put in that just little extra bit, and it's a chance to stick with people.
For sure. I'm interested more again on this topic with your marketing and your social media stuff. What's the process of coming up with all these ideas?
That's a good question. That's a good question. To be honest, we don't actually have much of a process at the moment. We're getting there a little bit with our ranges. So before it was just all random. We do a lot of custom swimwear. So often it'd just be a really cool design that was inspired through that process that would lead to a pair. Now we're designing more around themes. So that then lends itself to, if it's Australiana, doing content about Australia. But yeah, often it just starts with now like we're looking ahead for Christmas and we're like, okay, what's some funny Christmas content? So we're looking to do some recreations of Love Actually and some things like that. What else have we been doing lately? We've got a lot of new products. So it's combining like an elite athlete with one of the most ordinary rigs, like things that are kind of remarkable, in that literal sense, like worth making a remark about. That's what creates word of mouth. So like we're going to put these ads on TV. We'll be burning cash. Like there's no way we're going to make the money back from it, but we're I hope the Advertising Standards Board isn't listening to this. Maybe cut that out later. But we're trying to do the ads like cheekily or funnily enough so that people then go and share them outside of the platform. Same with billboards. It's, unless you're really big, it's hard to make cut through with them. But if you can do stuff that's remarkable, people will share it. You're hoping to build some long-term love. Like if you make people laugh, they're more likely to stick with you. So that's actually funny that we don't have a process for the marketing. We just, I don't know,
for a brand renowned for its marketing, I mean, sometimes this is the way it goes. You know, the ideas you have, you just come in one day and you're like, guys, I think this is going to work. Let's do some Love Actually remakes, or let's just get in a room, everyone go home and come in with 3 ideas and let's see which ones work.
Yeah, we have had periods where we've done that. We haven't done that for a few years. So I've just made a note.
Marketing process.
Reignite brainstorming marketing sessions. Yeah, fuck, should really get onto that.
I mean, often these things are better over a couple of drinks as well, right? Get the creative juices flowing.
There's a sweet spot, like 2 to 3 drinks. I don't know if you've ever done this, and you're like flowing, and then you get like 5 or 6 drinks down. You're like, this is brilliant. You look back the next day, you're like,
put the pen down. Stop at 2.
That was terrible. Yeah, tools down. 2 to 3. That's the sweet spot. So, yeah. Well, hopefully now that you've inspired us to get our marketing and brainstorming session live again, we're going to have some pretty hot content for the end of the year and start of next year.
I've got no doubt. It was a shame because I was hoping to pick your brains about what your process was so I could steal some.
Yeah, in the past we have just done that, like everyone, like we might have 3 pairs coming out and everyone has to, a group of 7 or 8 or everyone has to come in with 2 ideas you think are good to go. And we'll spitball them. But
well, whatever you're doing at the moment, it seems to be working. So
that's fallen away. So I think we need to reignite it.
Where do you see yourselves going from here? Where do you see Budgy Smuggler going from here?
Yeah, so the very big picture is like we want to build a stronger Australia. So like that's the get out of bed thing in the moment. Like,
what does that mean?
Yeah, good question. So how do we support community causes? How do we be like an ambassador for making stuff in Australia? We're one of the few people still to do it. How do we put, not just community initiatives, but how do we put Australian artists on the map? So that's kind of some of the underlying things. And then as part of it, like we want to be a bigger business too. So our loose goal is to do 10x over 10 years. So that's that 26-27% a year. So that's the grind on the business side of thing. And one structural thing we need to figure out is swimwear is actually a terrible business. Like it's hyper seasonal. The pairs last quite a long time. So like sometimes people will have, 3 or 4 pairs, but their last pair might have been purchased 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. So to round out I'd call it a weakness or vulnerability of the business is like the UK and French businesses make money for 3 or 4 months and then 1 or 2 for sort of Black Friday, Christmas. Australian business sort of treads water for 6 months, makes money for 6 months. So altogether it evens out a little bit, but that's not a super healthy way to look at each of the businesses. Each of them should be able to stand on their own 2 feet. So that's something we're working hard on, mainly product-wise. Like I'm in like a budgie tee at the moment. We're doing the main focus is on a bit of activewear, but the main focus will be on the top drawer as well, sort of socks, underwear, pajamas.
So that will be the main focus still product wise in the future.
Yeah, so like it all just arrived, or it's all just arriving like this week. So we'll see how it goes. And it's taken us a while to get it good. Like that's the other thing that I'd say is just keep trying to create things that you're proud of. And if you're proud of it, then you're going to be happy to go into bat for it every day. You're going to be happy to tell your friends about it. A few years ago with our non-swim product, it was kind of an add-on that we made. We didn't really think about it. Now when we're releasing underwear, it's like, how do we make our underwear like as good as anything? And it's budgy. People aren't buying it because it's budgy. Quality is kind of like our number one thing. Like we've got a thing before we release a new product. If it's not a fuck yeah, it's a fuck no. So keep iterating. And that took, I'm not super impatient. Maybe some people here will disagree with me, but I want it out. The pajamas took, 12, 18 months. The underwear took 12, 18 months. Like there's a lot of back and forth and like one size is out. And then you might miss a season. Like we had all these hats arrive, kids' hats arrive here in like April. It's like, mate, it's winter. Like, so
save it for next year.
So you go again. So, so that's sort of how I see the future playing out. We've got our own space, like our own warehouse now. And I'd like to build a rooftop pool in a couple of years' time. So that's
a pretty cool vision.
That would be so sweet. Like it's in an industrial area as well, so it'd contrast nicely with the panel beating shops and metal cutters.
This is such a non-typical CEO owner conversation. Like, what's your goal for the business? I want to build a rooftop pool. That's the goal.
Yeah, but like some of these things sound crazy, but then like if you've got an office with a rooftop pool, people are probably going to be pretty happy to come in each day. You can use it for photo shoots.
Sure. It makes sense. I mean, you're a swimwear company, or it does make sense.
So we had the state head of the bank come in the other day, and I just showed him a picture of it and said I'll be hitting him up for some money to help with the construction. I don't think she thought I was serious, and then I was like, no, like this is happening. So let's catch up. 2028 is when I would like that fully installed.
Love that. Ads, what's your personal dream?
Oh, personal dream, man. I got a wonderful wife and a couple of kids, so I think they're kind of top of mind these days. Like I'm pretty lucky. Like I'm probably close to living my dream and what I want to do. So like it's still a grind, but I really like what I do each day. So yeah, if anything, it'd just be spending a little bit more time with them as we all grow sort of older. I'd like to get in the water surfing a bit more too. I've been about twice in 10 years, so that might be something on the personal front I'd love to kick off. But no, like most of my family works with me, all of them actually in the business, so we get to spend a lot of time together.
What's it like mixing family and business?
It's okay. Like we kind of all do our own thing, have our own roles. Everyone puts in a good shift. So I would say it's 90% good. There's sometimes like when you get to family dinner, you want to talk about other things, um, not
Swimwear.
just work. So not just lycra. Um, so yeah, but we try and keep that, the personal life's separate. But yeah, literally my mum, dad, brother, sister. Um, so that's all my direct family. My two cousins, one of them was with us for a while. She's got a full-time job in a profession now. My other little cousin works here. So
Wow.
yeah, my uncle helps to build the stores. So it's a family,
That's
it's a
awesome.
family affair. But no, so far so good. It's been a while. Like, yeah, so far so good.
And when all's said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
Uh yeah, probably just like for giving it a crack, for caring about the community, and from trying to do it with a sense of humor and fun.
Love that. And as you know, the name of the podcast is Abnormal, and I started it because I want it to be for normal people who want to do abnormal things in their lives, which is very clear from this conversation is exactly what you did. You come across as
Mm.
a very normal, fun bloke, but you're doing something by definition extremely abnormal. So what's the one bit of advice that you would give anyone out there listening who's looking to do that abnormal thing in their lives?
That's a great question. Um, yeah, I'd say just try and find uh, something that if you get up each day is going to make you pretty happy. Um, and then like that's kind of, I don't think you have to do your own business or something totally weird either. Like sometimes you might plug away at a job because it helps with interests outside that. Um, yeah, but I do think at least for a while it's worth giving it a crack. Um, even if it's only to learn that you don't like it. So yeah, I'm a kind of give it a crack kind of person. But then, like say, my time at AIM was 8 of the best years I had working for a business where I wasn't the ultimate owner or controller. So I don't think you just have to do it um, totally on your own and in the wild. Yeah, just try and navigate your way through to find that thing that you do like getting up to do each day. Because we spend a lot of time in our in our in our work. And the other thing I'd say, which I largely do, but not always, is like just look after yourself physically. So at the moment, I'm back in kind of that a very good rhythm. Like I'm up each day at 5. I train 5:15. 6 till 7's like my own time. Then 7 till 8:30, I've got the kids. 8:30, they've got either a nanny or daycare, and then I'm home at like 4:35. So that's my sort of workflow at the moment. I had a bit of like a wig out a couple of years ago, like where I was not depressed, but maybe anxious. And like if you're ever in that cycle, like you've got to. I had to go to zero alcohol, exercising every
Mm.
day, and after like 5 days, you start feeling pretty good. So if you're in that kind of cycle, like just got to kind of look after yourself physically. So get up at the same time each day, stop drinking and exercise. Do that for 10 days. And then if you're still feeling really rattled, um, there might be something deeper, but often that's a good circuit breaker for me. And now I try and live that 4 or 5 days a week, just totally nothing. So I've got a pretty clear head. Give it a wee nudge on a Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday, and then lock it down and get back into a good rhythm. I'm 39 now, so feeling pretty good, but definitely that routine has helped me. So yeah, I think routine and a clear head is going to help you in doing things that are normal or abnormal.
No, I think that's fantastic advice. And thank you for talking about that as well. I think it goes a long way to show that people, even in your position, struggle sometimes as well. And it goes to show that, you might have the best idea in the world or supposedly be living the dream, but without your health, we've got nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's Warren Buffett's got a good thing on that. I don't know if you've heard that one, but if he had to give advice to a 19-year-old self, it's like, well, if you think of yourself as a car, you only get one chassis, so you got to look after it. You only get one brain, so you got to look after it. Yeah, so kind of easy to take that for granted, but that's something I'm doing a bit better now. Most of the time I've been pretty good. Like I've had things that keep me out of trouble, like surf boat rowing, like just having a business that's pretty has been pretty full on at times, or working 50, 60 hours a week at times. Like you can't really socialize. So now that there's a little bit more free time, it's just keeping that discipline.
I love that, mate. And I really wanted to have this conversation with you in particular because you're someone that I look at that is really setting an example of it can be done to build a business, have a life, have a family, be a good bloke, keep your health, and without having to sacrifice all of the above. You don't just need to live, breathe, die by the sword. I'm sure there have been moments, as you described in this call, when you're up at 3 a.m. packing boxes and making tags. But on the whole, you're evidence that it can be done. You can still have a good time, surround yourself with good people, and be healthy. So, mate, really appreciate your time, Mads, for coming on. It's been epic talking to you. Learned so much myself, and I'm sure that all the listeners will really take a lot from this conversation. So, thanks, mate.
Love it. We'll have to get on a boat in Hong Kong or Sydney soon.
Mate, I mean, you joke, but I'm going to be emailing you after this with some suggestions.
Sounds good. Love it, Pete. Cheers.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Abnormal Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to on right now, as it really goes a long way to growing the show. Thank you, and see you in the next one.